All righty, folks. Welcome back to another episode of The Uncomfortable Chat. I am Steve Wheatcroft, your host. Got a fun one in store for you today, but before we do, I got an announcement I want to make that I'm excited about. So I have joined on with Greg Olson, former tight end of the Carolina Panthers, now Fox broadcaster / youth advocate, at his platform over at Youth Incorporated. I think it is an awesome thing they're putting together here, giving not only kids some direction in this crazy world of sports, but also their parents, coaches, educators, things along those lines. So they're bringing a bunch of different ambassadors from all over the sports landscape together to drop some knowledge on everybody. And I was excited to be asked to be the golf ambassador. So we're going to do a lot of social media content with them. And it looks like for now we're going to be moving this platform through them. So I don't know how that's going to look exactly. We're still working through details, but I was excited about it, so I wanted to share. So I'll keep you guys posted on the next couple episodes on where it's going to be if it moves. But hopefully we'll be able to keep it right here and just use their platform as a launching pad. So anyway, without further ado, we've got Sage Steele, longtime national television personality. She spent 17 years at ESPN, famously covering the Super Bowl, the Masters, you name it, she did it. World Series, and obviously was on SportsCenter day in and day out with a number of different co-hosts. But always loved watching Sage on ESPN. She's a former Indiana Hoosier as well, so that always drew me to her. But yeah, she just showed up every day with that big smile on her face and always seemed like she was in a great mood, laughing, joking with her other co-hosts. Made SportsCenter even that much more fun to watch. But anyway, without further ado, Sage Steele. I now want to welcome on a very special guest. She's a longtime national TV broadcaster who spent 16 years at ESPN, primarily as the host of SportsCenter. She has also led their coverage of the Super Bowl, the Masters, the NBA Finals, and the World Series. She is now the host of the Sage Steele Show on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Please welcome to the show fellow Indiana Hoosier, Sage Steele. How are we doing this afternoon, Sage?
It's appropriate with you to have a golf clap after that intro, right?
Very much so. Very much so. Well, it's very nice to have you on here. As we talked off air here just for a minute, but I said I've always been a huge fan of yours. I'm a complete sports junkie at heart and have been glued to SportsCenter since I was a young child. But there's something about a couple of the personalities on that show that just get you in a good mood when you watch them in the morning. And you always showed up to every show, no matter probably what was going on in any form of your life. You just showed up with this massive smile on your face, and you made it feel like there was a friend talking to you while you were still delivering the sports and all the highlights. So thank you for all that you've done.
Huge compliment. I will take that. I'm glad that you felt that because it was genuine. I loved every second.
That's awesome. Some people go on there and they just read the news, they do the highlights, they do it, but there's other personalities that it's a comfortability factor, right? You sit there and you watch them, but you feel like you're a part of the show when they're doing it. So you were definitely that smile and that face, and just thank you for all your time over there. Let's start with the heavy hitting question first.
Yes,
are the Hoosiers for real this year in football?
Hi, I think so. I don't know when you're going to air this, but it depends on what happens this weekend. But yeah, I have never in my life as a Hoosier, which really began when I started my senior year of high school in the state of Indiana. I had to move senior year. IU, even when we sucked in football, which has been the most of that time until the last year or so. And I feel like I've never heard so many people talking about Indiana football ever. Obviously going to the playoff, you want to return back to that. That was incredible. It's still a little strange after all these years, isn't it?
Yes.
For us to be more relevant in football than basketball has never happened.
Never. So
we will see what happens. It's a new, fresh start in basketball as well. But now football's leading the way. It's really cool.
I'm with you on a lot of that front. I think that, you and I were very similar as far as age range. We were both there about the same time. So we very seldom ever made it into the football stadium, but we did a lot of tailgating, I assume.
Tailgating, and I would go in for the first half.
Yeah.
And then we would leave. Yeah.
I would usually do the opposite, where I'd stay in tailgate, and then if it was a close game, then I'd wander in. And
You're smart.
Yeah, hopefully something great would happen, and it never did. But yeah, I guess I'm still that jaded Indiana fan from the late 90s, early 2000s, where I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall. Like it's just there's something bad that's coming, and I thought it was the Illinois game, and then we won by 60 or something. It's like, well, never mind. Didn't see that one coming. So
yes. I'm going to homecoming. It's Michigan State, and that I don't know. I mean, Michigan State, every team in the Big Ten has always kind of had our number.
Yes.
So I'm nervous. I don't want to jinx it, by showing up because I have not been to an Indiana football game since my senior year of college. That would have been the fall of '94.
Wow. Isn't that funny
I
how every Indiana fan thinks that they're going to jinx the Hoosiers? Like, I'm the bad luck thing. It's like, no, I was
Yeah.
there for all the bad times, and it didn't have anything to do with me, it turns out.
No,
So,
that's true. That's true. But now I'm a member of the board of trustees at IU, which is
ooh,
crazy. I got appointed to that by the governor late this summer, and it's, I mean, just so crazy. Full circle. Would never have dreamt of this, and so now I'm invested in ways that are
yep.
really next level that I again could never have imagined. So I'm excited to go to the football game with that hat on, so to speak. It's
Yeah,
weird.
good for you. Well, bring home a W for all of us that are watching from afar. Let's get back to the early. I'm not going to get back into high school, college, all that stuff, but let's get into your broadcasting career. And everybody, whether it's a golf, professional golf career, broadcasting, whatever it might be, everybody needs a little help landing that first big job. What was that breakthrough moment for you where you realized everything in your life was about to be drastically different?
Yeah, at the very, very beginning, or because I think that it was just one big, huge, massive grind, and
Hmm.
on to during the day when I eventually got on the air, and then waiting tables at night to make ends meet where people would recognize me. I was at Colorado Steakhouse up in South Bend, Indiana, or down in Bloomington when I was in college. Like I was literally making $18,000 a year as a reporter. And
Yep.
then that's not enough to make ends meet when you're trying to pay
No.
car insurance and rent and everything else, and maybe a night out like once a month. So those are kind of my favorite times, though, is that grind because
Yep.
I also learned to produce and edit and do all the behind the scenes things, which gave me an appreciation for when I did make it in front of the camera. And I say this to my kids now, like, go do it, go grind, work 3 jobs, do whatever it takes. I had 4 internships before I
Yep.
got my first job. And I'm like, no one can ever tell you that you didn't earn it. They can say you suck, they can mock you for whatever, and they don't you talk too much, you take too long, to get to the tee box and actually swing. Like, criticize all you want. No one gave me anything. And that's what I hope my kids are able to say at some point too. I think when I got the job at ESPN, that was the moment that you
Mhm.
asked about. It's like, oh my gosh, my life will never be the same. But real quick, did you know the story? I've only told it a couple times, but I went to ESPN in 2007, but I actually got my first offer in 2004 and
No.
turned it down. Yeah, I turned it down, even though it was like my childhood dream. I was pregnant with my second child. I had a 20-month-old at home and knew I wanted more. And Stuart Scott, I'd met him because at the time we had the same agent, and he pulled me aside and he said, I know this is your dream. Jackie, our agent, told me about it. He's like, but just trust me when I say don't come to ESPN until you're done having kids. As a woman, he's like, I'm just looking out for you. It was still a very, um, I don't know how welcoming it was to women at the time.
No. Girl
And
boys club, I would assume.
for sure. And also, this is really pre-internet. So it wasn't, who knows what it was like, but I really was so grateful for him. We didn't know each other well at all at the time. And of course, I'm just like, Stuart Scott, I'm in awe. But it was so kind of him. And I then, with a strong faith and a strong just family dynamic, that's how I was raised, family first. I knew that I could never put career before family. And I knew I wanted more kids. So I turned it down, which was crazy. Everybody said I was nuts. My agent said, hello, idiot. Like,
Yeah.
ESPN does not need you. You need ESPN. Even my parents are so supportive. Were like, are you sure? But I just felt strongly about it and turned it down, signed another deal where I was in DC,
Yeah.
Baltimore. And then 3 years later, they came back with an even better offer. So it was really a cool journey to get there.
Good for you, and good for your focus on being on the right things at the time. And I mean, the fact that you were that young and still knew where your values stood. And it's like, look, family is number one always. The jobs will be there, job will be there down the road, but I need to focus on the family right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people your age probably wouldn't have done that. They probably would have jumped at the job and maybe sacrificed time at home with the kids at a young age, or stopped having kids altogether. And who knows?
Exactly. I know a lot of women who did that a lot, especially women in sports, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
It was not as friendly as it is. And now I'm like, I was told probably a major HR violation at the time, but who knew what that was? But when I had my first in 2002, she the HR person was like, listen, if you want to, and my bosses first, they're like, if you want to be on your NFL beat as you always are and say that it's so important to you. This is again in 2002, I was covering the Baltimore Ravens for Comcast Sportsnet. And they said, you got to be there from day one of training camp and you can't miss any of it. And so training camp began on my first child, her 8-week birthday. And so on 8 weeks to the day after I gave birth, I was leaving and driving an hour and a half each way to training camp and, still nursing. So I'm like, pumping in between practices back when practices were 2-a-days and full pads and no water and everything.
Yep.
And I think back on that, I'm like, can you imagine? I went from being told 8 weeks or you don't get that gig. And now we've got men with 3 months of paternity leave. I'm like, what the hell has happened? Maybe somewhere, I don't know that we need all that, but I'm just old school.
I love that though, and I love the fact that you respected the grind from the beginning. I've spoken on this.
Like honestly, maybe too much, but I didn't know that there was any other option. So yeah.
But there's something, and I talk about this on the pod quite a bit, that when I came out of college, I was a walk-on at Indiana University. I wasn't great. I didn't think about playing professional sports, and then I tried it only because it would keep me out of the workforce for a year or two. But I'm playing on these podunk little towns in Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee. But you're traveling, putting 3 or 4 guys in a room, and because you didn't know any better, it's like, this is all I knew. And, it was something like romantic about just living that life and living out of a car. And as weird as it sounds, and I had a sponsor that was supposed to pay me a lot of money to get started. And then he bailed at the very last second. And I already had an apartment in Palm Beach area and I had to go get 2 jobs. So I waited tables as well. And I remember that it was about 6 weeks after I got into my first ever PGA Tour event. I Monday qualified and got into one up in Pennsylvania. And then I headed down to Jupiter and, I was waiting tables at this sports bar. I'm sure you know Duffy's. I was waiting tables in Duffy's, and I had this 5-year-old kid screaming at me because I didn't give him enough honey mustard. And I just kept thinking, like, I was on the PGA Tour 6 weeks ago, and now I'm catching shit from a 5-year-old because I didn't bring him enough honey mustard. And it's one of those like humbling moments. It's like, okay, just keep the grind going. Like you'll get back out there.
Yeah, you talk about full circle. If that kid could have seen you later, right?
I'm sure he's probably a general manager at Duffy's now.
That's funny.
Well, as you said, like being a woman in sports early on, it was a very different role then than what it is now. In the pressure of live TV, how did you manage to handle like the fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt that maybe went into that role?
Oh man, I had so much fear, anxiety, and self-doubt every single day. But I also knew that I had this dream that I announced to my parents when I was 11, 12 years old, watching the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. And that's when I told them I wanted to be a sportscaster. And so am I going to let fear and insecurity and all those emotions that are valid and legitimate, am I going to let that just crush my dream? If so, that's on me. That's my fault. Can't blame anybody else. So that's how I would push through every day. It's like, okay, remember that little girl and that dream? You have to do it. And then just try. And then I would fail. And then every time I failed, sometimes literally, on live TV, I realized that I still woke up the next day. It's crazy how that works. And I was like, okay, I'm still here, And I just talked to someone recently about, they were like, well, were you nervous on SportsCenter? I mean, you did it for so many years and I'm like, every day. I was nervous. And I don't know it was nerves as much as, a healthy anxiety and adrenaline that you need to go on live national TV every day for 2 hours. But I felt it every day. And I think it made me better. And also, again, just knowing that no matter how bad it is, how much I suck, it's not going to kill me. That's not what's going to kill me, And then it was really... I motivated myself a little bit more every time by saying, okay, look, last time you didn't think you could do it and you did. It was really cool to kind of take a bird's eye view of myself, like step out of my body and my mind and look down. And I'm like, okay, you don't even think you're that good, but someone must, because they're not going to just do you a favor to give you this job and then another contract, right? So I still feel it. I still have a ton of nerves no matter what I do, but I know now that I thrive on that pressure.
Isn't it funny how most of the negative thoughts that come into things like that are in our own heads? It's not from outside sources. It's not from people telling you screwed up. It's not from anything. It's like, I knew I screwed up. I'm hammering myself about it. And then the outside world either didn't even notice or really didn't care.
They
And
don't
it's like, no,
care.
you're doing a great job. You like say you slipped up and said the wrong thing one time or whatever it might have been. Like, we don't care. You're great at your job. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
and you're finishing and you're winning, and so
yeah.
you enter that tournament and you finish, right, whatever your goal was, whatever that score was, that
Yep.
statistic, whatever it is for me or you or anybody. And what am I thinking about? I did a 2-hour live show, and I'm thinking about the one time I mispronounced an NHL player's name, which matters, and we need to get better and not mispronounce that name
Yep.
or not miss that putt on 18. Like, okay, but can we also focus on all the good that you did
Exactly.
to get to that Sunday at Augusta or to
Yep.
get onto SportsCenter or the NBA Finals? Hi, there's so much good. How do we balance that,
Yeah.
right? Because we need to continue to work and improve and do all those things, but let's not crush ourselves and focus just on
Correct.
the negative. It definitely has to be intentional, and you got to watch it.
Yeah, very much so. And I've got an 11 and an 8-year-old, and I talk to them all the time about attitude, effort, preparation. As long as you're doing those three things and getting yourself ready to be in that moment, you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. You're
Yeah,
human. It happens. And just, were you prepared? Or, if you weren't prepared, then that's one thing. Like, you have to prepare better next time. But don't be so hard on yourself. Like, at the end of the day, nobody really cares. We all think we're bigger than what we are.
yeah,
And it just, go about life. Just keep working, right?
totally. It's the only way, or else you will not make it.
Correct. Correct. Well, you've managed to interview some of the best athletes in the world. What did you notice about their mindset that separates them from everyone else? And was there one athlete whose mindset simply just blew you away?
Kobe.
Yeah, I knew that was
Yeah.
going to be the answer. That's the one everybody
Really?
goes to is Kobe, it feels like.
Well, I
Yes.
only got to be around him 2 or 3 times, but the last time I saw him, it was the night before he was joining our show on NBA Countdown, and there was some drama involved, and he wasn't going to come, and then he was going to come, and I had to kind of massage it. Uh, had nothing to do with him. It's
Yeah.
always the people around
Oh,
us,
yeah.
right? And
Yep.
so I made the phone call and talked to him about it, and you know, at first he's like, ah, and then I was like, you know what? I was like, I have a job too. And I kind of went off on him, not in a mean way, but I was like, you know what? I got a show and I have to host a show. I'm trying to help
Yep.
like with these segments that you're in. You're Kobe. Like, oh my God. And we ended up having the best conversation.
That's awesome.
And his mentality came through, his mentality that he's famous for did come through in that conversation a little bit. And I got to see a real human side here, real human side of him too. Like
Yep.
we stopped the conversation in the middle so we could go tuck his daughters in, put them
Oh,
to
that's
bed, and
awesome.
then he called me back.
Yep.
So I just love his all those characteristics, the toughness. I don't know that it was always effective with every one of his teammates, but he was true to himself.
Correct.
That's what I love about Michael Jordan. I got to interview Michael
Yep.
Jordan in a group setting during one of these Eastern Conference Finals runs, I think in like 96 or something, 97, 95. I was working at Wish TV in Indianapolis and covering the Pacers, and he came through, and I just remember just how direct and kind of short he was. But then, you watch him play, and it was like, oh my, and to me, that's why the Michael versus LeBron debate, just don't even come at me with that,
Nope.
please. I got to witness Michael and all these people who are prisoners of the moment. I respect the hell out of LeBron, but no.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
and then to watch The Last Dance, during COVID, just to see that, like, I don't know. I love that old school tough mentality. Like, if you're not in this battle with me, get off my team.
Yep.
That's how it's supposed to be. That's how all the great ones are. So Michael, Kobe, Wayne Gretzky. Oh, from afar and interviewed him only a couple of times, but just such a gentleman.
Very
I
much
love
so.
seeing the differences between the sports, the athletes in the sports, and how they treated you, how they handled interviews and media. That was always fascinating to me. Major League Baseball was probably one of the toughest in NBA, and then hockey was the best. NHL guys are the best, super chill and humble and down to earth, and they will, crush your soul physically and mentally. I
Yeah.
love that. So I have so many, I get asked that question a lot about some of the best interviews, and I really need to come up with a better answer because I feel spoiled saying this, but I have forgotten probably all the people that I got to interview, and every one of them I took so seriously in that moment because I respected them so much and admired them and envied their strength and toughness to do what they've done. That's why I wanted to tell stories my whole life. But all the typical names probably are on my list.
No, I love the answer though. And Kobe is such he's an honest, obvious answer to a lot of different people for all the great reasons. But I think that he is, because he's not really mentioned in the GOAT conversation, just because, LeBron has the numbers, he's got the longevity piece, and Michael was Michael, and Michael is the best ever. As far as I'm concerned, if you can watch The Last Dance and don't think he's the greatest basketball player of all time, you're missing something, or you fell asleep during,
Totally.
four of the episodes or something. I've seen it so many times. I keep rewatching it. It's phenomenal. But
So
to your point about him being a good teammate, I think he and Kobe both had that piece where it's not that they were bad people. They weren't bad teammates. They just wanted, if they were going to work their butts off every single day, they expected the same out of you. And if you didn't give
right.
that kind of effort, they were going to let you know about it. So if that makes him a bad teammate, so be it.
Fine. That's
Just
why he had 6 rings, like
exactly. But to see Michael's vulnerability at the end of that one episode where they were laying into him and talking about how harsh he was and what he, how he could be a tyrant and Michael starts crying at the end. He's like, look, if you didn't want to win, you didn't have to win. But then cut. And I was like, wow, that was awesome.
I
And
know.
yep.
Amazing.
But it's so true because it's like he thinks he's doing the right thing the whole time by pushing these guys because he wants them to be as good as he is. And he can, he sees the greatness, but he also sees the greatness in others and he knows what they're capable of. But
I don't know that we have an athlete today that's like that. I mean, there's a lot that we don't know. We're not in those locker rooms and clubhouses, and I get it.
correct.
But give me one person that probably leads that way today in any sport. Like it would have, you know what? It was Peyton Manning. But,
Yes.
but as far as today's athletes, but Peyton, and you wouldn't know it, right? When you're listening to him,
Yeah.
interviews and sound bites, you'd never know because he was so polite, such a gentleman. And he, Michelle Tafoya, yes, Michelle. He wouldn't just say yes, yes, Michelle. Like he educated himself on every single person, every single media member. I worked in Indianapolis. I'm at Wish TV again. I was covering the Colts, with the rest of my teammates there in the sports department, and I was there during that '98 draft. What did the Colts do? Is it Ryan Leaf or is it Peyton Manning? Which one? They obviously chose the right one as far as how their careers played out. But then when they brought him in for his first ever Colts press conference, I was in the hallway and the PR guy, Craig, was walking him by all of us. And he said, hey, Peyton, this is Sage Steele. She works. And he said, what's your name? It's Sage. He's like, so nice to meet you, Sage. I look forward to working with you. And he shook my hand and I was like, what? Who says that? Athletes don't say that. And he studied every person, every scenario, I've emceed a couple of events and shows with him, and he is more prepared than me. I like to wing it. He's like, what are you going to ask me? But I know how he was in those locker rooms too. And like, you put up or shut up and get out. I respect that. I bet Tom Brady was like that too. I don't know that Tom Brady was as controlling in those ways as Peyton. I mean, as far as the conversations with PR staffs and the PR guys Peyton was another level, but I respect him. He was the GOAT in many ways.
Very much so. And to your point, he was always prepared. He studied better than anybody. And you felt like you were going up against the mad scientist when you were going up against Peyton.
Every
Because
time.
he knew everything, every little move that every defensive back or every linebacker was going to move to. That's why he's so great on Monday Night Football now. He's able to literally sit there and go, all right, they're about to switch into this defense and he's going to throw it here. But again, that just goes to show the preparation that goes into his role. And that's why he was one of the best too.
Yep.
Well, you were a proud mother to 3 wonderful children. How did motherhood change the way you approached your career and your personal identity?
Well, that story I told you before about turning down ESPN the first time, it was obviously the first major decision I had to make I don't know, that where I led with being a mom first.
Yep.
And I never regretted it. That's for sure. It got harder and harder. And obviously, I mean, like they were pretty close together. When my third was born, my first child was still 3. So they were all pretty stacked up. And I wanted it that way because I wanted them to be close and friends and have that. And then I always said, when I die someday, they'll have each other and they won't be like 10 years apart. I have a brother, the one that's the head PR guy for the Ravens. He is like 21 months younger than me. And then I have another brother who's 7 years after him.
Yep.
So there's 9 years between the two of us. And that's too much. It's like he's a different generation. He is. He's 43. 43, I'm 52. Like it's a we're very close, but very different. So I wanted them close together. It was so cool when especially in my early days at ESPN on SportsCenter, and I would come home and I was not very good. I think people there might agree with you too. I was not good. I was not confident. I talked too much. My passion was there. My enthusiasm and my smile was there because I did love it. But I remember just driving home so upset over a mistake or two. And then you get home and your kids don't care.
Yep.
They're just happy that mom's home and they want to show you, how they did on that third grade homework paper or that they skinned their knee at recess or whatever it is.
Yep.
And I can't imagine. I mean, I have a lot of friends women who chose to wait to have children because of the career. They have a lot of regrets, and I'm grateful that I just went with it and put them first. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not a ton of sacrifices and
Oh
that
yeah.
you're going to have to miss some events and some important moments with your kids. And I still struggle with things that I missed that my kids don't even remember. But I also provided and I also showed them a good example of hard work and that grind that we talked about, and that women can do anything. Especially my oldest is 23, she's like, she's in it. She's in her grind as a young professional now. And
Yep.
I think I showed her that you can do it all. You just can't do it all the way that you might want. There's going to be those sacrifices, but I just loved having the perspective that there's something much bigger than my job, no matter how cool my job was.
Yep. Yeah, it's easy to lose sight of that too. I know that I was struggling. I had to miss a lot of events as well when I was still playing professional golf. I had I guess they were 2 and 4 at the time, but I remember standing behind a leaderboard out on the golf course, FaceTiming my son during his birthday party. And I was like, I'm crying on the phone. I'm like, God, I can't show him that I'm crying back here. I'm like, this sucks. I'm in Boise, Idaho, hiding behind a scoreboard so nobody else sees me FaceTiming my son, and I'm crying because, I'm not there. And
Not there. Yeah.
yeah, and it's hard to deal with, but it's like, to your point, it's like, no, I have to be out here. This is my job. I have to do this so that I can provide for them, and hopefully they
Once they get
understand.
older, and yours are younger, but once they get older, those conversations, and probably with your 11-year-old even, like, they're actually really important to have.
Oh yeah.
So they
Yep.
do understand dad or mom isn't trying to miss your t-ball game.
Yep.
We have to, the fact that you get to play in sports leagues, that really cool bedroom that you have,
Yep.
the cool Jordan shoes that you have, the vacation we took as a family this summer.
Yep.
That's why. And
Got to get
nothing's
paid for
really
somehow.
yeah, I think it's super important for us to communicate how much we want to be there and have to do this to support us and want to do that. Because guess what? You have teammates there too. People who
Exactly.
are depending on you there. So I certainly have regrets as a mom and missing a lot of things, especially one year in particular at ESPN. But I know I did my best at that moment. Our
Yes.
job now is to pay that forward and say, okay, here's what I screwed up. Here's what I was afraid of. Here's
Yep.
what I would suggest you don't do it like I did it. Do it, please do it much better. Don't live in fear. Stand all those things. But I can't imagine having waited. I don't remember much. Granted, I blacked out probably because I was so tired during those childbearing years. And then when I went to ESPN, my kids were 11 months old, 2 and 4. And then I'm going on to Sports Center. And my husband, we're divorced now, but my husband was a stay-at-home dad. And I wouldn't be able to do it without him.
No.
But there were times when I was jealous because I wanted to be the one to go on the school field trip to the Bronx Zoo, but I had to work. No matter what you do,
Yep.
it's not going to be perfect and you're going to have to sacrifice.
I think you said it well a couple of minutes ago. It's like you did what you thought was right at the time, and that's all you can do. It's not like you made a decision where you're like, I know I'm screwing up right now. I know
Yeah.
I'm making the wrong decision, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like
Right.
none of us do that. We do what we think is right at the time. Just deal with it at the end. If I regret it 5 years from now, I regret it 5 years from now. But for right now, it seems like it's the right moment.
But that means we have to really listen to our gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, really listen. Don't just say, well, at the right time. No, like and there's pressures and your boss is going to put pressures on you, and then you're going to put extra pressure on yourself. And maybe you really, 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 really want to go cover that event. Is it the right thing? And in 10 years or a month, are you going to look back and say, damn, that was selfish. That was the wrong thing. We know. We usually know when we're in the moment making the decision.
They call it a gut feeling for a reason. This is going to be a very broad and open-ended question, so you can take this and run with it however you want. But what do you think the biggest problem is with the state of youth sports at the moment?
Oh, gosh. We've talked a lot. And I know all of you guys, and Greg Olson talks a lot about, parents and how parents need to behave better for many obvious reasons. Stay out of it. Let your kids figure it out and be that example that you hope they are as parents someday. But I think, to me, that's one huge part of it that probably isn't talked about enough. Like, you're going to try to go in and fix this for your kid to make it all perfect and comfortable. And you're actually hurting them by doing
Yep.
that, because we have to learn. We have to teach our kids at a young age to problem solve. And so you don't feel like you've gotten a fair shot. You are, playing youth basketball and you haven't started a game all season, but you're there for practice and you're on time and you're the first one in and the last one out. And look at your numbers. They're better than Johnny's over there. Okay, great. You go talk to your coach, even if
Hmm.
you're 8 years old,
Yep.
and say, hey, coach, can I ask you a question? Sit down, just have that. Like, if we can teach our kids that, it changes everything, right?
Yes.
It's all about how you're asking questions as an 8-year-old kid or as a 48-year-old mother or father who is losing your mind. And by the way, let's ask ourselves why we're so frustrated. Okay, yes, we all love our kid, but is this life and death? No. Like, you're probably living vicariously through your children. You're probably taking out your childhood athletic frustrations on this coach who is just
Yep.
doing his best, probably volunteering or making a pittance, if anything,
Yep.
to coach your kid in his spare time, where she's spending now away from his kids. Like, it's crazy how selfish parents can be. Also, I sat down with Brett Favre on my show a couple of weeks ago, and that was really fascinating. And he is dealing with Parkinson's disease that he firmly believes, and doctors have told him that it's related to all those hits to the head, which he says he experienced over 1,500 concussions during his football career.
Wow.
I asked him about tackle football and at what age kids should start to play. So parents, what age should you allow it? His dream is that kids wouldn't play until like their senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Now, there's too much money involved on the line with the NCAA to
Yep.
win, have, your team at whatever university winning. So how are you going to win if you don't know what kind of talent you have if they haven't played in high school? It would take years and probably will never happen. Look at the science. Tell me to trust the science. Certain things I question because I don't know where you got your science from. I won't go
Yes.
there. But in general, look at those studies. There's so many more medical studies out there
Yep.
now talking about the effects of hits to the head early on. And because some 11-year-old kid doesn't have the muscle strength in his neck to properly tackle. Even if you tell him and show him how to do it, they don't have control of their muscles in their body enough to do it the right way. You
Yep.
don't need an 11 or 12-year-old kid playing tackle football. You just don't. So it is a matter of us parents. This is one of to answer your question in 10 different ways. Like, we have to take that responsibility and study and not just listen to what the coach is saying in your town because he sees how talented your kid is, but really go deep dive to several different publications. You can't just go on Google and look at the first couple of pages of Google because
Yep.
all that stuff is,
Yep.
biased as well.
Paid for.
Always money involved in who's first in line on your Google search, right?
Yep.
But is it worth it? Now that we have all this information with CTE and the effects of concussions, especially multiple, we have no excuse as parents but to go and dig deep dives and put away your aspirations and your goals for your super talented kid who's going to be the next Tom Brady or the next Lawrence Taylor on the field, like whatever. Be honest, be truthful. Brett said to me, he's like, if it were up to him, his grandkids, they'd play golf.
Yeah.
He's like, I would not have my kids play football. Like, and this is one of the all-time greats who's got a couple $100 million in the bank because of
Yep.
it. So like, we just have to do more work and put our egos aside and what is right for our kids. Do we even listen to our kids fully? Like, for what sports they want to play? Yes, sometimes. And then my final thing, because this topic I'm so passionate about, obviously,
It's a good
is
thing.
I know that in order to be successful and to make the travel team, I mean, you have to focus year round on that sport.
Mhm.
But I think it's proven that there's more injuries if you're only focused on one sport. But if you
Yep.
diversify your portfolio, you are training your body in many different ways and your muscles in many different ways. And then they can adapt better when there is a potential injury. And how about exposing them just to different people, different traditions in every single sport? Like,
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I would have been different if I had this protege athlete for a kid that was going to be the next Michael Phelps. I had swimmers for a while and I had runners, my 3 kids, maybe I would have felt differently. But I do think that then what happens as well is there's so much pressure There's so much pressure on these kids once they say that they have talent, and all the coaches want them. And by the way, I miss high school sports, like because of all the pressure with travel sports and AAU, and then getting a college scholarship. Remember how fun it was to go to your high school football game and go to your high school basketball game and volleyball? These kids don't even play high school anymore, because it's all about the travel teams. Football's different, but it's all about the travel teams. And I'm so sad because the traditions of that were incredible, right? Okay,
Yes.
so there. Now I took up your entire showtime with that one question.
I loved it though. I love the answer, and it's the one I get all the time, and I don't understand how parents are still so focused on the specializations of their sports and making sure they have three different coaches all the time for different avenues of that sport. And it's like, I get calls all the time. Hey, my son Johnny's the best 10-year-old golfer in the world. I mean, he's going to be so good. What, he just doesn't seem to have the drive right now. What should we do? Like, how can I get him motivated again? I'm like, sign him up for soccer. And they're like, what? No, he's really good at golf. And I'm like, I don't care. Sign him up for soccer. He'll be hungry to come back and play golf again. Like, if he's that good, he's going to be that good 5 years from now. And if he's not, he's going to get burnt out, which he would have done anyway. So,
Such a great answer.
well, I talked to, when I can talk to like Annika Sorenstam, Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Leaf, all these guys, it's like, what did you do as a kid? Well, I played all the sports. Okay, well, what do you teach your kids knowing what you know now because you were the best at what you did? What do you teach your kid? I tell them to play all the sports. And Roethlisberger said it best. He's like, look, when my son's playing golf, he loves golf. He's all in on golf, but he can't wait for football season to start. And then when football season starts, he can't wait for basketball to start. And when basketball starts, he wants to get the clubs back out. It's like, but we rotate through the sports, but he's hungry to play it at all times. And his body's learning all kinds of different muscle movements. And he's just, he's able to like calm his brain down from one sport so he doesn't get so frustrated with it over and over, because that's going to happen if you work on something year round. But it's like, if the best athletes in the world are telling you what to do and you're still ignoring it because you think you know better as a parent, like, maybe it's that time to pull that mirror back out and make sure you see the person on the other side. And
I'd say so for sure. Remember, it was always cool she was a 3-sport athlete. Oh, resume. And you had our letter jackets and we had the different pins, field and basketball and volleyball. And it was like a sense of pride to be able to do more than one thing.
That's the first thing I pictured when you were talking about the high school sports, was when the football team would all wear their jerseys to school that day, or you wear the Letterman jackets at night when you were playing another sport in the crowds. And yeah, none of that stuff happens anymore because you're specialized in your sport and you're playing travel baseball instead of on your high school team, because there's more scouts watching. Anyway, we could go on that topic for hours and hours. I do want to touch on one part. You spoke of him earlier, but Stuart Scott was obviously a good friend of yours through your time at ESPN, and his battle with cancer was obviously very public and very tragic. The old phrase is live like you were dying. And what did you learn from your friend through his ongoing battle?
So much. Once I got to ESPN in 2007, we became just really fast friends, and his daughters were a little older than my kids, but they were in the same dance company together. And so we would end up at these dance recitals. One time I remember him flying back from the NBA finals, and he could afford a private plane. So just hop on one of those real quick to get back to Sydney or Taylor's dance recital, and then head right back to work. Like, he was such an incredible father, and that meant everything to him. And you could tell in that final public appearance he made at the ESPYs in 2014. And I was there to see it. I was doing NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. During the finals, he pulled me aside and he was like, listen, I've been asked, to speak at the ESPYs, and I want you there. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing Summer League. And he looked at me and he goes, I need you there. I knew at that time, at that moment, that he knew that this was his goodbye. And on that's for anyone who hasn't seen it in a while, please go back and watch that speech. It was incredible and beautiful, and so him.
Watched it last night.
Did you really?
Yeah, and like researching this, and I went right to that speech and I watched it again last night.
Beautiful. It was beautiful. I remember sitting in the audience just crying, and again, it hitting me that he knew this was it. I saw him over Labor Day weekend in 2014, and he died first week of January 2015. And I had moved out to the West Coast because our NBA coverage was based in Los Angeles. So I left Bristol, Connecticut, and went out there. Lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I didn't want to live in LA with 3 young teenagers. And so when I came back to Bristol, I went and saw him at his house, and he was in the thick of it. And I'll never forget this moment where he was so sick, and he needed to go to the hospital, and he didn't want to go because he was afraid he'd never leave. He had to get up to go get sick again. And he was just on his hands and knees, and he had an IV connected to him. And he couldn't get up. And I looked at him and I said, remember what you said at the ESPYs? Remember when you said you fight, and when you're too tired to fight, lay down and let someone else fight for you. And I told him that. I reminded him of what he said. And he just looked at me with his big, beautiful blue eyes and looked down and said, I'll go to the hospital. And so that's what I learned. I learned so much from him through the years, but in that moment, he was still such a fighter. His strength was incredible. And the pride, I think, that was there when he didn't want to go back in. He wanted to show out he could do it by himself, but I was so in awe of his vulnerability that he allowed me in to see that, and then listened in a moment where he didn't want to let go. He didn't want to give up. So it just, that quote they said from the ESPYs that I kind of repeated, that's what I have learned and taken with me.
Yep.
Like, fight and fight and fight. And then when you get tired, lay down and let someone else do it. That doesn't mean you have to be battling cancer to let someone help you.
It could be anything. It
took me a long time to realize that it's okay to ask for help. And that was one reason that I finally allowed people to help me.
Yeah. Well, you're preaching to the choir on the right podcast in that regard, because we teach, that's one of the goals here, is to always be willing and vulnerable enough to ask for help. I want to read something to you, and it goes kind of all along the same lines, but I want to read something to you, and I want you to talk about how you implement this into your daily life. Make us to choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, and never be content with a half-truth when the whole can be won.
The cadet prayer from West Point that I had to memorize as a kid.
Yep.
It is, I don't even try to use it daily. It just happens where I think about it, because it was drilled into us for so long. When you think about the harder right instead of the easier wrong, it came to me a second ago when we were discussing, parents and how do we push our kids.
Yep.
And, sometimes it's harder to sit back and say, okay, little Stevie, you don't want to play golf? Fine. We'll sign you up for soccer. Because it's not, even though he's going to be the best golfer in the history of golf, right? And it's harder to let go and let your kids figure it out. Well, that's one example. It's one way to implement it and to use it. I mean, honestly, when I decided to stand up at Disney and ESPN after they suspended me and punished me just for my thoughts while allowing others to give all their thoughts because it fit in with their narrative, that was definitely the harder right. Oh my gosh, I didn't want to do that. I loved my job. Everything about those 16 and a half years there. And when I filed the lawsuit, it was about 14 years in. Gosh, that was so hard, but I knew it was the right thing for me at that time, because otherwise I felt like I was living a lie.
Yep.
And, not being true to myself by discussing this stuff with the company where they preach diversity. And I said it begins and ends with diversity of thought. If you don't have that, all this diversity doesn't even matter, skin color, etc. You have to begin with diversity of thought. And the fact that they were complete hypocrites with it made me say, I have to stand up. I can't take it anymore, and for myself and for others. So that was a very tempting moment to choose the easier wrong. It would have been a lot easier, a lot cheaper, I wouldn't have been canceled, all the things. But I'm also so proud of it. It was the right thing, even though it was one of the hardest,
for sure,
top two hardest decisions I've ever made.
Well, I think that, again, you and I don't know each other very well, but we've spoken for an hour now, and I can tell you that it was definitely the right decision, because one thing I have learned is that you stay true to yourself and you stay true to what's important to you. And it's just about the second or third time now that you've said something along those lines. No, it wasn't the easiest choice, but I made it because I knew it was the right choice, and it's what I believed in and what I stand for. So good on you.
I do think we have to remember that. Sure, at that moment, I stood up for myself and I filed a lawsuit, me, not anyone else, and not for anyone else. It was for me in that moment.
Yep. And
though, in the process of making the decision to pull the trigger to go do that, I knew that by doing it, my career at ESPN would be over. You don't sue your company and then expect to get a new contract. I knew that it was unique to sue my company while I was still on their TV screen for another almost 2 years. That was crazy and surreal. But what else am I going to do? I still had the job. But Like I realized that by doing it, I would be helping so many other people, friends there who were afraid to speak up. And my goal was if I do this with Disney, one of the biggest companies on the planet, maybe other companies will listen.
Yeah.
Maybe other executives and boards and the leadership will listen and be like, you know what? We might not agree with her. We might think she's crazy, but she has that right to believe that. Why are we going to punish her? I think it's just now starting to happen. Because many more of us have stood up. But back in 2021, when I got suspended, in 2022, when I filed the lawsuit, it was a different world, you know? So it's just cool when you realize it's a lot bigger than you and you're standing up for other people who are fearful of losing their jobs. So I felt like I had this God-given platform, and I still feel that way.
Yep.
And so I better use it while I can.
Yep. And if you don't stand up or somebody else doesn't talk, they're going to keep pushing people around and doing things the way they want to do. And maybe they need to be held accountable for some of their decisions, right? Instead of just,
Yeah.
good for you. Good for you. I want to take a quick minute to thank our first ever sponsor at the Uncomfortable Chat, and that's Slipstream IT, a company redefining IT for life sciences. At Slipstream, they partner with a purpose and believe in the power of technology and the life sciences to enable people to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. You can learn more about Slipstream at slipstream-it.com. And now back to Sage Steele. Oh, I know we're coming up on time here. We normally have a 6-pack of questions here. We're not going to have time for all 6, but I do have to hit you with like 2 quick ones here real fast.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to ruin your segment here, so do all 6.
Sure?
Go for it. Yeah, go.
Quick 6-pack of questions. Favorite 3 sports teams across all sports?
Across all sports. Okay. The Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
First team I covered. The Indiana Hoosiers. Gosh, I sound like a real Indiana girl, don't I? The New York Yankees, because I love a couple of their players. Aaron Boone is a dear friend of mine, used to be my neighbor in Arizona. And he's one of the first baseball players I ever interviewed when he was with the AAA Indianapolis Indians in the Reds organization in the mid-90s, late 90s, working at Wish. So hi, Yankees, because of Booney.
You do go back a long ways. And as a Steeler fan, thank you for not saying the Ravens, because I know you have family ties to the Ravens also.
Big family ties to the Ravens, yes.
Yep.
So you're right. I should root for them because if they win, then my brother gets a bonus. But no, just for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Number 2, I need you to rank the following items in order of best to worst. Mother Bear's Pizza, a steak from Little Zagreb, stuffed breadsticks from Kilroy's, or the Cajun chicken hoagie from Yogi's.
I never had the hoagie from Yogi. I know. Listen, anything Little Zagreb's, that's a great restaurant there for all those people yet to, and those parents visiting their kids in Bloomington. What was the first one? Because that was number 2.
Little Bear's Pizza, or Mother Bear's Pizza?
Mother Bear's Pizza. Yeah, I think that's gone. Wasn't that on the corner there, right on Kirkwood?
And that was the one over on 3rd Street.
Oh, that was on 3rd. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna go Zagreb's one, and then Mother Bear's 2. And what was the third one?
Stuffed breadsticks at Kilroy's. You ever have those? The pepperoni and cheese?
They're so good.
So good.
I just wish I could still eat that way. I wish my body would allow it. But thank goodness I did it. Listen, that freshman 15 was like freshman 25 for me. I was large and in charge my freshman year at McNutt.
Well, those breadsticks, I still make them for my kids now, but they were 50 cents back in the day, and you could have like 4 of those things. They were massive, and then get like a pitcher of beer, and the whole tab was like $6. Yeah. Then
did you ever go to JR?
To where?
Did you ever go to J. Arthur's? It was right on the square, and it was a good restaurant, but on Thursday night, it would shut down. It was like hip hop, so 90s hip hop in the 90s. It was great, but they had first of all, I never competed in this, but it was a long leg sexy buns contest at J. Arthur's, and me and my roommates would go just to watch these girls and be like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Whatever you do in college to make money, right? I sold plasma. They danced with their, Daisy Dukes on, but they had $1 Long Island iced tea pitchers for $1 Long Island. So one and done for $1, your night's set.
Times have changed. Yeah. And then what was it? Bluebird was nickel beers or something like that, or on whatever night that was. Yeah.
Yes.
Number 3, favorite co-host on Sports Center to work with.
Matt Berry.
Yep.
Matt Berry. He was there. I did the last 2 years with him on the noon Eastern
Yep.
Sports Center. Probably one of the most underrated Sports Center anchors there now for sure. I think he's the best and most talented, most versatile.
Yep.
He can call play-by-play golf, play-by-play college football, NFL, baseball, you name it. And he is like a comedian, so hysterical. And the things that he would say to me, he'd save them for about 5 seconds before coming out of commercial break
Yep.
to see if I could, come into like a serious story to see how professional I am, see if I can hold it in. And there were a couple times thank God I had fingernails. I would have to inflict pain, like break skin, blood to prevent myself from laughing during a really serious story because of
I have not gotten to meet Matthew Berry yet, but I am very good friends with Michael Collins, who
Now, don't say Matthew Berry, because then that's Matthew Berry.
Fantasy
Remember
football.
Fantasy football who used to work at ESPN, but he's at NBC. Love him too. Matt Berry. And
Matt
then
Berry.
Michael Collins is one of my favorite humans.
Yep, Collins is great. He and I have become good friends, obviously, for just years of being out there. But
yeah,
I actually interviewed him for the podcast a few months ago. But I love Mikey to death. But he's always with Matt Berry, and they play some member guest every year together, and they do live commentary from the golf course. It's hilarious.
they're so talented.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting Matt Berry someday, somewhere.
Yes, you have to.
You have 3 sporting events to go to, and then you're not allowed to attend them anymore. What are those 3 sports? Or what are those 3 events?
The Masters.
Yep. I know you covered the Masters a lot. Was it,
It's great.
Impactful? Yeah.
I loved it. It was incredible. And I think there's something I think there's something a little weird about Augusta National. Like it's a lot. It's gorgeous. It's so perfect. That's what I mean by weird. It's so perfect that you're like, okay, I am the opposite of perfect. Like I don't fit in. But I did it 7 straight years. So grateful. So I was in over my head for a lot of it, but Andy North and Curtis Strange were like my brothers or maybe uncles because they're a lot. Who really helped me out, like really made me feel welcome when others did not. That's not a very easy sport to break into, but you're damn right I was going to go. I don't know that there have been many women, much less women who look like me, hosting any golf coverage from Augusta National. So it was an honor for 7 straight years. So that's number 1. What else do I not need to go to? Again, because I've been to all of them. Super Bowl.
Yep.
Like, again, you sound so like old and jaded, but I much prefer to watch it from my couch.
Couch is pretty good.
Beer or, a bottle of wine that I've bought at the liquor store for, I don't need to pay $16 for a beer. I can buy a case for $16 of my cheap beer or whatever. Most importantly, I have my own toilet. I don't need to share public restrooms with anybody. And I don't like the chaos. So usually I'm at the Super Bowl and I work kind of all week and do events, and then I'll leave before kickoff and watch it on the plane or when I get home. Like it's too chaotic. And then the halftime show is never as good in person. I mean, maybe it is, but like to watch it on TV, not that I'll be watching this year, but in other years, yeah. So Masters, Super Bowl, and I don't know. It's probably, listen, doing the World Series in person, I would definitely do that again. That's different. I don't know why. I've never seen a Stanley Cup final. I'd love to see that. But otherwise, I don't think I necessarily need to see the Final Four, the national championship, men's hoops, unless my Hoosiers are in it.
Is that just because Indiana's not going to be there anytime soon, or?
Well, how about this, fans? Like, when's the last time we won a national championship?
Were you there in 2?
Weren't even alive.
Did you go in 2002 when they played Maryland?
Well, I was super pregnant with number 1 at that time. I was working in DC, and everybody in DC is a Terp. Everybody was a Maryland fan. And I mean, that was such a ground and pound type game. Like we slowed it down so much, and Gary Williams was melting down. Well, to me, we won it all that year with the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 when we beat Duke. And Jay Will, my dear friend, Mr. Free Throw or whatever that was. I remember I jumped up and down. I was screaming, so excited to beat Duke that year that I almost went into labor. But that was Mike Davis's team, right? That was after the firing of Bob Knight. So listen, the last 3 years were a disaster under Mike Woodson. I never loved that hire. Starting over, maybe. But I feel like some of those events are best on TV because you can see everything and see the emotions. And then you get to watch at the end. What do they play?
One final moment or
your final moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the 3. Do I sound old and jaded?
No, not at all. And I'm actually going to one up you, even though you almost knocked yourself into labor. I had the cops called on me after the Duke Indiana game for a noise violation, and I was watching the game by myself in a one-bedroom apartment.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's kind of amazing, actually. See, that's a true Hoosier fan.
Yep, I got a knock on the door. There's a cop standing there, and I had like the red and white pants on and an Indiana shirt, and he just looked at me, and I'm out of breath, and he's like, "You're good. Just keep it down." I was like,
Yeah.
"Thank you." And he's like,
You
"Great
understand
win."
what just happened? Yeah,
Yeah, he's
exactly.
like, "Great win. Just keep it down." I'm like, "Yeah, we're good now. Game's over. I'm done screaming."
Yeah, I'm done, sir. Yeah.
Yep. Number 5, give me an athlete that you interviewed that completely changed your opinion of him after the interview. Did you ever have somebody you're like, I really don't want to interview this guy. I don't have the best opinion about him. And then you got done, you're like, wow, actually pretty good guy.
Never that I had a bad opinion of entering. Like Stephen Curry, I knew he was a great guy. And then I worked with him a couple times and I'm like, I'm in love, like in a healthy professional way, you
Yeah.
know, because I just he's so truly kind and a good soul. And we feel very differently about pretty much everything in life, but who cares? Like he's a good man. As far as I know, a great husband and a great father. He's just such a kind soul. And I love that you can combine being kind and genuine and a killer all at the same time.
Yep. Very good. Great answer there. And I won't, 6 is about a life advice question, but you've already answered that. So I'm going to give you a quick side story from number 5 for the 6th question. So one year I was playing on the PGA Tour, and Steph Curry's playing in the Korn Ferry Tour event. He got a professional spot out there, and I'm watching Scott Van Pelt do Sports Center the night before. And I knew Scott a little bit back in the day, and he said, "Oh, don't be surprised if Steph goes out and plays really well tomorrow. The over/under 76.5. Make sure you'd bet the under on this thing. He's really good." And I knew the course. I'd played there a bunch, and so I sent Scotty a text or a tweet on Twitter and said, "Scotty, love your takes, man. You know I'm always there for you. But there isn't a shot in hell he breaks 78 tomorrow." And I played the PGA Tour event the next day. I think it was in Dallas. And I get off the golf course and my phone is lit up with messages. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And I go to Twitter and Steph Curry shot 74 and came back at me personally. And all he wrote was, "Hell hath frozen over." And I had about 7 million Twitter bots below that telling me what a worthless piece of crap I was and how I couldn't make a cut. And
Oh my gosh.
yep. And then Michael Collins was on site. I lost $200 to him that week betting against Steph Curry. And we had a blast with it all week.
That is so much fun and so cool. And again, he is a silent killer, is he not?
He got me.
And again, another one of those athletes that didn't play just basketball. I don't know what he did, played golf in high school, but he's so talented and so competitive. And listen, I know he's naturally gifted, and even with golf, right?
Yeah.
Like swing, it's just annoying. But like at the end of the day, he diversifies his portfolio and does a whole bunch of other things that probably helps him mentally. Think about that. The mental aspect of golf with the mental aspect of basketball in a game 7 and you're on the line. Like there's a lot of similarities. That's a great
killer. Yeah, he hit me with the night before the night even existed. Well, Sage, I will let you go. I want to thank you for being generous with your time. I want to thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Nice to finally get to talk to a fellow Hoosier and somebody with very much respect in the game. So,
by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he was ripping on me. He's like, "There's no way you live on the East Coast of Florida with that view." I'm like, "Hello, do you seem like that's not a filter? Come on to the East Coast."
It's just raw jealousy coming through on my end. It just I'm so nice, and it works.
I'm glad that it worked. I know you guys have a great winter up north.
Well, Sage, thank you again so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and look forward to hopefully seeing you down the road somewhere.
Thank you, Steve. Take care. Thanks for having me.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks, that was a great Sage Steele. I want to thank her again for coming on. I thought that was a lot of fun. Fun, laid back, easy podcasts, the ones we like. But yeah, I'm jealous of that view. She's got one killer view. If you're not watching the YouTube, you should go over and check it out. She's got a nice little spot down there in Fort Lauderdale. Beautiful ocean views. So, yeah, great interview. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully we'll see y'all next week for another episode. Thanks. Take care.